Have you ever stopped to wonder why you were born into exactly the family you were born into? Why your mother is who she is, with all her qualities and flaws that have marked you so deeply? Coincidence? Destiny? Or is there something much more profound happening here? Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychiatrist, discovered something that will completely change how you see your family history. He revealed that our soul doesn't choose our mother by chance. There's a hidden purpose, a psychic mission that few can perceive. Prepare to discover disturbing truths about your own existence. Why did you need exactly this mother to evolve? What lesson did your soul come to learn through her? And the most shocking discovery of all, how your mother was actually chosen to be your greatest teacher, even if it caused pain. If you're ready to understand the deepest mystery of your family life and discover secrets that Jung kept for decades, keep watching. What you're about to discover may change your perception of everything. 1. The mystery of pre-birth choice. Before we dive into the depths of this mystery, imagine for a moment that your soul existed before your physical birth. Picture it floating in a realm beyond time and space, looking down at all the possible mothers it could choose from. What would make it pick one over all the others? Jung believed this wasn't random at all. Your soul came to Earth with unfinished business. Think of it like a student who needs to learn specific lessons that can only be taught by certain teachers. Your mother became that teacher, whether she was gentle and nurturing or difficult and challenging. Both types of mothers serve the same purpose, to help your soul grow. Jung discovered that we don't choose easy mothers, because easy doesn't make us grow. We choose mothers who will push us, challenge us, and sometimes even hurt us, because these experiences carve out the space where our true self can emerge. It's like a sculptor who doesn't create art by being gentle with the stone, but by chipping away everything that isn't the masterpiece. The most beautiful part of this mystery is that your mother agreed to this role before you were both born. Her soul said yes to being your teacher, even knowing it might be difficult for both of you. She accepted the responsibility of helping you learn what you came here to learn, even if it meant being misunderstood or carrying the weight of your struggles. Think about your earliest memories with your mother. Notice how they shaped who you are today, the way she held you or didn't hold you, the words she spoke or the silence she kept, the love she gave or the love she struggled to express. All of these were part of the curriculum your soul signed up for. This doesn't mean your mother was perfect or that everything she did was right. It means that on a soul level, you knew exactly what kind of experience you needed to have with her. You chose her specific way of loving, her particular fears, her unique struggles, because they would create the exact conditions you needed for your spiritual growth. Jung also believed that this choice happens in what he called the collective unconscious, a shared space where all souls are connected. In this space, your soul and your mother's soul had a conversation. They made agreements about what they would help each other learn. She would be your first teacher, and you would be her greatest student. Sometimes people wonder if this means they're stuck with whatever happened in their childhood. But Jung taught us the opposite. Understanding that your soul chose this experience gives you incredible power. It means you're not a victim of circumstances. You're a soul who courageously chose a challenging path to grow stronger and wiser. The pre-birth choice isn't just about learning hard lessons. Sometimes souls choose mothers who will give them exactly the love and support they need to fulfill their purpose in the world. These mothers provide the foundation of confidence and security that allows their children to shine their light brightly. Whether your mother was your greatest challenge or your strongest supporter, the choice was made with love. Your soul loved you so much that it chose exactly the right mother to help you become who you were meant to be. This choice was made not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of everyone whose life you would touch. When you start to see your relationship with your mother through this lens, everything changes. Her flaws become teaching tools. Her love becomes sacred fuel. Her absence becomes a lesson in independence. Her presence becomes a gift of connection. Every aspect of who she was and who she wasn't served your soul's highest purpose. This understanding doesn't erase pain or excuse harmful behavior. Instead, it gives meaning to your experiences and power to transform them. Your soul chose your mother knowing exactly what it was getting into, and it chose her because it knew you had the strength to not only survive the experience, but to thrive because of it. 2. Mother, as mirror of the soul. Your mother's face was the first mirror you ever looked into, but Jung discovered something remarkable about this mirror. It doesn't just show you what you look like on the outside. It reflects back the deepest parts of your soul, showing you both your light and your shadows in ways that will guide your entire life's journey. Every interaction with your mother created an imprint on your soul. When she smiled at you, you learned about joy. When she worried, you learned about fear. When she was strong, you discovered your own strength. When she was weak, you found your power to be different. She became the first teacher of your emotional vocabulary, showing you through her own being what it means to be human. But here's where it gets fascinating. Jung taught that your mother didn't just mirror who you were, she mirrored who you were becoming. Her personality traits, both positive and negative, became the raw material from which you would craft your own identity. You would either embrace her qualities or rebel against them, but either way, they would shape the person you would grow into. The mirror your mother provided wasn't always pleasant to look into. Sometimes it showed you things about yourself that you didn't want to see. Maybe she was anxious, and you saw your own tendency toward worry reflected back. Maybe she was critical, and you discovered your own inner critic. Maybe she was distant, and you learned about your own struggles with intimacy. These reflections weren't accidents or punishments. They were gifts, even when they felt like curses. Your soul needed to see these aspects of itself clearly so it could choose what to do with them. You could heal them, transform them, or use them as motivation to become something different. But first, you had to see them clearly in your mother's mirror. Jung believed that we often spend our entire lives trying to understand what we saw in that first mirror. We look for partners who remind us of our mother, or we deliberately choose people who are nothing like her. We repeat her patterns, or we fight desperately against them. Either way, we're still responding to what we saw reflected back to us in those early years. The most powerful mirrors are often the most distorted ones. Mothers who struggled with their own demons provided their children with mirrors that showed them exactly what they needed to heal in themselves. These children grew up to be healers, teachers, and guides for others who had experienced similar pain. Their mother's struggles became the source of their greatest gifts to the world. Sometimes the mirror showed us our own potential greatness. Mothers who believed in their children, despite everything, reflected back a vision of possibility that carried their children through the darkest times. These children learned to see themselves through eyes of love and grew up to reflect that same loving vision back to others. The mirror also worked in reverse. Your mother saw herself reflected in you from the moment you were born. Your innocence reminded her of her own pure nature. Your needs taught her about unconditional love. Your growth showed her that change was possible. In many ways, you became her teacher just as much as she became yours. Jung discovered that some of the most profound healing happens when we finally understand what our mother's mirror was trying to show us. We realized that her anger was really about her own pain. Her control was really about her own fear. Her distance was really about her own hurt. When we see this clearly, we can finally separate what belongs to her from what belongs to us. This separation is crucial for your soul's development. You can't become who you're meant to be while you're still seeing yourself only through your mother's eyes. You need to find your own mirror, your own way of seeing yourself that honors both what she taught you and what you've learned on your own. The goal isn't to reject everything you saw in your mother's mirror or to accept it all without question. The goal is to understand that every reflection she provided was part of your soul's education. Some reflections were meant to inspire you, others were meant to challenge you, and still others were meant to show you what you needed to heal or transform. When you finally understand your mother as a mirror of your soul, you can use that understanding to become more fully yourself. You can appreciate the gifts she reflected back to you while releasing anything that no longer serves your growth. You can honor her role as your first teacher while stepping into your own power as the author of your story. The mirror she provided will always be with you, but now you get to choose which reflections to keep and which ones to let go. Your soul chose her as your first mirror because it knew you would eventually learn to see yourself clearly and love what you saw. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. 3. The wound that teaches. When pain has purpose. Deep within every soul lies a sacred wound, a place of tenderness that shapes everything we become. Jung understood that our deepest wounds often come through our mothers, and that these wounds aren't random cruelties, but purposeful openings that let the light of wisdom shine through. Your mother's inability to love you perfectly wasn't a mistake in your soul's plan. It was the plan itself. This might be the hardest truth to accept, but it's also the most liberating. The pain you experienced wasn't meaningless suffering. It was a specific type of pain designed to crack open parts of your heart that couldn't be opened any other way. Like a seed that needs to break apart before it can grow into a tree, your soul needed to be broken open by your mother's limitations to discover what was always hidden inside you. Every child expects perfect love from their mother, and every mother fails to provide it. This isn't because mothers are bad, it's because perfect love isn't the lesson. The lesson is learning how to heal, how to forgive, how to love yourself when others can't, how to find strength in broken places, and how to transform pain into wisdom that can help others. Your mother carried her own wounds, passed down through generations of women who had their own struggles, their own pain, their own unmet needs. When she couldn't give you what you needed, she was passing along an invitation for you to break the cycle. Your soul chose to be born into this lineage not to perpetuate the pain, but to be the one who finally heals it. The wound that hurts the most is often the source of your greatest gifts. If your mother was absent, you may have developed incredible independence and the ability to help others stand on their own. If she was controlling, you may have developed fierce boundaries and the strength to help others find their freedom. If she was critical, you may have learned to see beyond surfaces and help others discover their true worth. Jung taught that our wounds become our windows, places where we can see into other people's pain and offer real help because we've walked that path ourselves. The child who felt unloved grows up to love others with extraordinary depth. The child who felt unheard grows up to really listen. The child who felt unseen grows up to truly see others. But healing doesn't happen automatically. Your soul chose the wound, but you have to choose the healing. This requires you to stop seeing yourself as a victim of your mother's limitations and start seeing yourself as a warrior who chose a challenging battle because you knew you could win it. You didn't come here to be broken by her pain, you came here to break free from it. The most beautiful part of this journey is that healing your wound heals it for everyone in your family line. When you choose love instead of repeating patterns of hurt, you change the story for future generations. Children and grandchildren you may never meet will benefit from the healing work you do today. Sometimes the wound isn't dramatic or obvious. Maybe your mother was generally loving but couldn't show affection the way you needed it. Maybe she provided for you physically but couldn't connect emotionally. These subtle wounds can be even more challenging because they're harder to identify and explain to others, but they're just as purposeful. Your wound also taught you what kind of love you would need to give yourself. If your mother couldn't validate your feelings, you learned to validate yourself. If she couldn't celebrate your uniqueness, you learned to appreciate your own gifts. If she couldn't provide security, you learned to create your own foundation of strength. The pain wasn't meant to define you forever. It was meant to refine you. Like gold that becomes pure through fire, your soul knew it would become more beautiful through the process of working with whatever limitations your mother carried. Every tear you cried over her inability to love you perfectly was watering the seeds of compassion that would bloom in your adult life. Understanding that your wound has purpose doesn't mean minimizing your pain or excusing harmful behavior. It means recognizing that your soul is stronger than any wound and that you have the power to transform even the deepest hurt into healing wisdom. Your mother gave you exactly the wound you needed to become exactly who you're meant to be. The ultimate teaching of the wound is that you are not dependent on anyone else's ability to love you perfectly. You came into this world with everything you need to heal, to grow, and to love. Your mother's limitations revealed this truth to you, even if it took years to understand it. When you finally embrace your wound as a teacher rather than a burden, you discover that it has made you more compassionate, more real, more able to connect with others who are hurting. The very thing that seemed to separate you from love actually prepared you to give and receive love more authentically than you ever could have otherwise. 4. The collective unconscious and family lessons. Beneath your individual relationship with your mother lies something vast and ancient that Jung called the collective unconscious. A shared space where all of humanity's experiences, patterns, and wisdom are stored. Your family didn't just happen randomly. You were born into a specific lineage because your soul needed to learn lessons that have been passed down through generations, waiting for someone brave enough to finally master them. Think of your family line as a school where the same courses are taught over and over until someone finally graduates. Maybe the lesson is about learning to speak up for yourself after generations of silence. Maybe it's about breaking cycles of addiction, abuse, or abandonment. Maybe it's about learning to receive love after generations of people who pushed others away. Your soul enrolled in your family's particular curriculum because it was ready to pass the test. Every family carries certain patterns like invisible threads woven through time. These patterns show up in how family members handle anger, express love, deal with money, approach relationships, and face challenges. Your mother wasn't just your individual mother. She was also carrying the energy and lessons of all the mothers who came before her in your family line. When you look at your mother's struggles, you're often seeing struggles that have played out for generations. Her difficulty trusting others might trace back to great-great-grandmothers who had their trust broken. Her need to control everything might come from ancestors who survived by being hypervigilant. Her inability to show emotion might stem from generations of women who learned that feelings weren't safe to express. But here's what makes your story special. Your soul chose to be born at this particular time in your family's evolution because it was ready to learn these lessons and transform these patterns. You didn't come to repeat the same old stories. You came to write new ones. The collective unconscious guided you to this family because it knew you had what it takes to heal what needed healing. Jung discovered that we often feel pulled to learn things that our ancestors never had the chance to learn. A grandmother who never learned to read might have a granddaughter who becomes a teacher. A grandfather who never expressed his emotions might have a grandson who becomes a therapist. The family soul keeps trying to complete itself through each new generation. Your mother served as a bridge between the old patterns and your new possibilities. Through her, you experienced echoes of ancient family struggles, but you also received the opportunity to respond differently than anyone in your lineage ever had before. Her limitations showed you exactly what needed to be healed, and her strengths showed you what was already working well in your family system. Sometimes the lessons aren't obvious. Maybe your family carries a pattern of women who sacrifice themselves for others, and your soul came to learn healthy boundaries. Maybe your family has a history of men who abandon their families, and you came to learn commitment and presence. Maybe your family struggles with expressing creativity, and you came to learn how to honor and share your gifts with the world. The collective unconscious also connects you to universal human experiences that go beyond your specific family. Every mother-child relationship carries echoes of the very first mother-child relationships in human history. When your mother held you, you felt connected to millions of years of mothers holding their babies. When she failed to meet your needs, you tapped into the universal human experience of learning to meet your own needs. This connection to something larger than yourself gives meaning to even the most painful aspects of your relationship with your mother. Her struggles weren't just her individual problems, they were part of humanity's ongoing effort to learn and grow. Through healing your relationship with her, you contribute to healing the mother-child wound that exists in the collective human experience. Your family chose you just as much as you chose them. The collective unconscious works like a perfect matching system, bringing together souls who can help each other learn what they need to learn. Your mother's soul agreed to carry certain patterns forward so you could have the opportunity to transform them. She took on a role that might have been difficult or painful for her because she knew it would serve your highest growth. Understanding this cosmic collaboration can completely change how you see your family relationships. Instead of feeling like a victim of dysfunction or randomness, you can see yourself as a conscious participant in humanity's evolution. Every pattern you heal, every cycle you break, every new way of loving you discover makes the world a little bit better for everyone. The lessons embedded in your family line are also gifts. Maybe your family taught you resilience through hardship, creativity through chaos, or compassion through suffering. These gifts didn't develop despite your family's challenges. They developed because of them. The collective unconscious knew exactly what combination of strengths and struggles would create the unique person you were meant to become. When you finally understand your place in this larger story, you stop taking your mother's limitations personally and start seeing them as part of a beautiful, complex system designed to help souls grow. You realize that everyone in your family, including your mother, is doing their best with the consciousness they have, and that your role is to expand that consciousness for future generations. 5. The maternal shadow and your inner growth. Every mother has a shadow, parts of herself she couldn't accept, express, or integrate. These hidden aspects didn't disappear just because she tried to hide them. They lived in the spaces between her words, in her reactions under stress, in the dreams she gave up and the fears she couldn't face. Jung understood that your mother's shadow became one of your most important teachers, showing you both what to embrace and what to transform within yourself. Your mother's shadow might have shown up as the anger she couldn't express directly, so it leaked out as criticism or control. Maybe it was the creativity she abandoned, which made her resentful when others pursued their dreams. Perhaps it was the vulnerability she feared, causing her to become overly protective or emotionally distant. These shadow aspects weren't evil. They were simply parts of her humanity that she couldn't fully own or integrate. As a child, you absorbed these shadow elements like a sponge. You felt her unexpressed emotions, carried her unfinished business, and often found yourself acting out what she couldn't acknowledge in herself. If she suppressed her anger, you might have become the rebellious child who expressed it for both of you. If she denied her needs, you might have become overly demanding, trying to get attention for both yourself and for the needy child she once was. But your soul didn't absorb her shadow by accident. It chose to work with these energies as part of your spiritual curriculum. By experiencing your mother's unintegrated aspects through your relationship with her, you learned to recognize these same tendencies within yourself. Her shadow became your teacher about the parts of human nature that need love, understanding, and conscious integration rather than rejection. Jung taught that we can't heal what we can't see, and your mother's shadow made visible many aspects of the human psyche that might have remained hidden otherwise. Through her, you learned that everyone carries both light and darkness, strength and weakness, love and fear. This knowledge became the foundation for developing genuine compassion, both for her and for yourself. The most challenging part of working with your mother's shadow is recognizing how it lives within you. Maybe you swore you'd never be like her, only to find yourself repeating her patterns when you're stressed or triggered. Maybe you rejected everything about her, only to realize later that you also rejected valuable parts of yourself in the process. Learning to integrate her shadow means finding the wisdom hidden within what you initially saw as purely negative. Sometimes your mother's shadow showed up as her unlived potential, dreams she abandoned, talents she never developed, adventures she never took. As her child, you might have felt pressure to live out these unlived aspects of her life, or you might have felt guilty for pursuing things she gave up. Learning to separate your dreams from her unfulfilled ones becomes crucial for your own growth and authenticity. Your mother's relationship with her own mother also cast shadows that affected your relationship with her. Patterns of criticism, emotional distance, or overprotectiveness often travel through family lines, with each generation unconsciously passing along what they haven't healed. By understanding these generational shadows, you can choose to transform rather than transmit them to future relationships. The shadow also contains hidden gifts. Your mother's apparent weaknesses often concealed important strengths that she wasn't allowed to develop or express. Her excessive emotions might have hidden deep empathy and intuitive abilities. Her controlling nature might have concealed powerful leadership qualities that had no healthy outlet. Learning to see the gold within her shadow helps you discover similar treasures within your own personality. Working with your mother's shadow requires tremendous courage because it means facing the parts of her and yourself that are most difficult to love. But this work leads to extraordinary inner growth. When you can love and accept your mother's whole self, including her shadow aspects, you develop the capacity to love and accept your own whole self. This integration creates a foundation of self-compassion that transforms every relationship in your life. Jung believed that our greatest healing comes through making the unconscious conscious. By bringing your mother's shadow patterns into the light of awareness, you free yourself from unconsciously repeating them. You can choose which aspects of her shadow to transform and which hidden gifts to develop. You become conscious rather than reactive in your responses to life. The process of integrating your mother's shadow also helps heal the relationship itself. When you stop needing her to be perfect and start seeing her as a complete human being with both light and shadow, you create space for a more authentic connection. She no longer has to carry the burden of being either all good or all bad. She can simply be herself, and that's enough. Understanding your mother's shadow ultimately teaches you about the shadow nature that exists within all humans. This knowledge makes you more compassionate in all your relationships because you recognize that everyone is wrestling with unintegrated aspects of themselves. The patience and understanding you develop through working with her shadow becomes a gift you can offer to others on their own journeys of growth and healing. Your mother's shadow was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to strengthen you. By learning to dance with these difficult energies rather than being overwhelmed by them, you develop psychological resilience and emotional maturity that serves you throughout your life. Her shadow becomes your initiation into the full complexity of human nature and your qualification to help others navigate their own shadow work. 6. The Great Mother archetype in your life. Deep within the human psyche lives an ancient image that Jung called the Great Mother, a universal pattern of feminine energy that exists beyond any individual woman. This archetype represents both the creative and destructive forces of nature, the nurturing womb and the fierce protector, the source of life and the guardian of death. Your personal mother was simply one expression of this eternal feminine principle, chosen by your soul to help you understand this powerful force that shapes all life. The Great Mother archetype appears in every culture throughout history, as goddesses like Isis, Demeter, and Kali, as symbols like Mother Earth and Mother Nature, and as the universal mother figure who both gives life and takes it away. Your soul needed to experience this archetype through a real human being, with all her imperfections and limitations, so you could learn to relate to the feminine principle that governs creation itself. Your mother carried both the light and shadow aspects of the Great Mother within her. When she nurtured and protected you, she was expressing the positive mother archetype, the unconditional love that asks for nothing in return, the fierce protection that would defend you against any threat, the wisdom that knows exactly what you need for healthy growth. These moments connected you to the divine feminine energy that creates and sustains all life. But the Great Mother also has a shadow side, and your mother expressed this too. Sometimes she was the devouring mother who couldn't let you grow up and become independent. Sometimes she was the absent mother who abandoned you emotionally or physically. Sometimes she was the critical mother who destroyed your confidence instead of building it up. These difficult experiences taught you about the destructive potential of the feminine principle and helped you develop strength and discernment. Jung discovered that we must encounter both sides of the Great Mother archetype to become whole human beings. If we only experience the nurturing aspect, we may become dependent and unable to face life's challenges. If we only experience the destructive aspect, we may become defensive and unable to trust or receive love. Your soul chose a mother who would give you exactly the right combination of both aspects to help you develop into a complete person. The relationship you developed with your personal mother becomes the template for how you relate to the feminine principle throughout your life. This affects not only your romantic relationships, but also your relationship with creativity, intuition, nature, and the cyclical aspects of existence. If you had a nurturing mother, you may find it easier to trust the creative process and allow things to unfold naturally. If you had a challenging mother, you may need to consciously develop faith in the supportive aspects of feminine energy. Understanding your mother as an expression of the Great Mother archetype can help heal wounds that feel too big for one person to have caused. The pain you experience wasn't just about your individual mother's limitations. It was about learning to navigate the full spectrum of feminine energy in the world. This perspective gives meaning to your experiences and helps you see them as initiation into deeper wisdom about life itself. For women, the relationship with the maternal archetype is especially complex because they must learn to embody it themselves. A woman's relationship with her mother determines how she will express her own feminine power, whether she will trust her intuition, embrace her cyclical nature, express her creativity, and eventually become a mother herself, whether to biological children or to creative projects and ideas that she births into the world. For men, the relationship with the Great Mother through their personal mother determines how they will relate to feminine energy throughout their lives. A man who experienced healthy mothering often develops respect for feminine wisdom and can partner successfully with women. A man who experienced wounded mothering may struggle with women until he learns to heal his relationship with the feminine principle. The Great Mother archetype also represents the Earth itself, the planet that gives birth to all life and eventually reclaims all living things. Your relationship with your mother often mirrors your relationship with nature and the environment. Those who felt nurtured by their mothers often feel at home in the natural world, while those who felt threatened by their mothers may feel disconnected from or fearful of nature's power. Jung taught that healing our relationship with the personal mother heals our relationship with the archetype itself. When you can see your mother as a flawed human being who did her best to express the Great Mother energy, you develop a more mature relationship with the feminine principle. You can appreciate her gifts without being destroyed by her limitations, and you can access the positive aspects of the archetype even if she couldn't fully embody them. The Great Mother lives within every person, regardless of gender. It's the part of you that creates, nurtures, protects, and sometimes destroys what no longer serves life. Learning to access this energy consciously, rather than being overwhelmed or controlled by it, becomes one of the most important tasks of human development. Your mother was your first teacher in this essential life skill. As you mature, you begin to understand that your mother was never meant to be the Great Mother perfectly. That was too big a role for any one person. She was meant to introduce you to this energy so you could learn to find it within yourself and in the world around you. The nurturing, wisdom, creativity, and protective power you seek was never meant to come only from her. It was meant to flow through her to awaken these same qualities within you. When you finally understand your mother as a representative rather than the source of the Great Mother energy, you become free to access this powerful archetype directly. You no longer need her to be perfect because you can connect to the perfect source of feminine wisdom that exists in the collective unconscious, in nature, and within your own soul. 7. Individuation through the maternal bond. Jung's greatest discovery was the process of individuation, becoming who you truly are rather than who others expect you to be. This journey always begins with separating yourself from your mother's identity, dreams, and expectations, while keeping the valuable gifts she gave you. Your soul chose your specific mother because the process of growing beyond her influence would teach you exactly what you needed to know about becoming authentically yourself. In the beginning, you and your mother existed as one psychological unit. Her emotions were your emotions. Her fears became your fears. Her dreams felt like your dreams. This fusion was necessary for your survival as a helpless infant. But continuing this merger beyond childhood would prevent you from discovering your own unique identity. Your soul knew that learning to separate from her would be one of your most important developmental tasks. The process of individuation through the maternal bond happens in stages, often spanning your entire lifetime. First comes the realization that you and your mother are separate beings with different thoughts, feelings, and needs. Then comes the sometimes painful recognition that she cannot fulfill all your emotional needs, nor should she. Finally comes the mature understanding that she is a human being with her own struggles, dreams, and limitations, not the all-powerful figure you once believed her to be. This separation process can feel like betrayal, especially if your mother struggled with boundaries or if your family system discouraged independence. You might feel guilty for thinking differently than she does, for choosing a different path than she would choose, or for seeing her clearly rather than through the idealized or demonized lens of childhood. But this guilt is actually a sign that individuation is working. You're claiming your right to be yourself. Your mother's reactions to your growing independence also became part of your education. If she celebrated your uniqueness and encouraged your autonomy, you learned that it's safe to be yourself in relationships. If she felt threatened by your differences and tried to pull you back into fusion, you learned about the importance of maintaining boundaries with people who love you but can't let you grow. Some mothers unconsciously live through their children, making individuation feel like you're taking away their reason for existing. Other mothers push their children away too early, making individuation feel like abandonment rather than natural growth. Your soul chose your particular mother because her specific way of handling your independence would teach you exactly what you needed to learn about standing in your own power. The most challenging part of individuation is learning to keep what serves you from your mother's influence while releasing what doesn't. Maybe she taught you wonderful values about kindness and hard work, but also passed along anxieties and limitations that don't belong to you. Learning to sort through this inheritance consciously, keeping her gifts while returning her burdens, requires tremendous psychological maturity. Jung discovered that we often have to disappoint our mothers to become ourselves. This doesn't mean being cruel or rejecting everything about them, but it does mean choosing your own path, even when it's not the path they would choose for you. Your soul knew that learning to withstand your mother's disappointment would prepare you to withstand anyone's disapproval when you need to make authentic choices. The individuation process also involves recognizing how you've been unconsciously rebelling against your mother in ways that still keep you tied to her influence. If you choose the opposite of everything she represents, you're still being defined by her rather than by your own authentic preferences. True individuation means making choices based on your own values and desires rather than either following or opposing her example. For many people, individuation requires grieving the mother they wish they had while appreciating the mother they actually got. This grief isn't self-pity. It's a necessary letting go of fantasies so you can see reality clearly. When you stop wishing she was different, you can finally receive whatever gifts she was actually able to give you. The process becomes even more complex when you realize that your mother was also trying to individuate from her own mother while raising you. She might have been caught between her desire to be different from her mother and her unconscious repetition of familiar patterns. Understanding her struggle with individuation can help you have compassion for the ways she both succeeded and failed in her relationship with you. Jung taught that successful individuation leads to what he called the transcendent function, the ability to hold paradox and complexity rather than seeing things in black and white. In relation to your mother, this means being able to love her while also setting boundaries, to appreciate her gifts while also acknowledging her limitations, to honor your connection while also claiming your independence. As individuation progresses, many people discover they can have a completely different relationship with their mother than the one they had growing up. When you're no longer trying to get her to be different or defending against her influence, you can meet her as one adult to another. This doesn't always lead to closeness, but it often leads to peace. The ultimate goal of individuation through the maternal bond is not to reject your mother or become completely independent of all relationships. It's to develop the inner strength and self-knowledge that allows you to choose how close or distant to be with her based on what serves your highest good and authentic self-expression. Your mother's greatest gift to your individuation journey may have been her very imperfections. If she had been able to meet all your needs perfectly, you might never have developed the inner resources and self-reliance that make you uniquely you. Her limitations forced you to go within and discover capacities you might never have known you had. When individuation is complete, you realize that becoming yourself was never about rejecting your mother. It was about becoming so secure in your own identity that you can appreciate her humanity without being threatened by it. You can love her for who she is, rather than resenting her for who she isn't, and you can honor the role she played in helping you discover the magnificent, irreplaceable person you were always meant to become. 8. Transforming the relationship, the forgiveness that liberates. The final lesson your soul came to learn through your relationship with your mother is perhaps the most powerful one of all. how to transform pain into love through the alchemy of true forgiveness. This isn't about excusing harmful behavior or pretending everything was perfect. It's about understanding forgiveness as a tool for your own liberation, freeing yourself from the chains of resentment and opening your heart to receive the gifts that were always waiting within your most challenging relationship. True forgiveness begins with understanding that your mother was doing the best she could with the consciousness, resources, and emotional tools she had at the time. This doesn't make her actions right or wrong, it makes them human. She was dealing with her own wounds, her own fears, her own unhealed childhood experiences while trying to raise you. When you can see her struggles with compassion rather than judgment, the first seeds of forgiveness begin to sprout. Jung discovered that forgiveness is not something you do for the other person. It's something you do for yourself. Every resentment you carry toward your mother is like drinking poison and expecting her to get sick. The anger you hold on to doesn't hurt her, it hurts you. It blocks your ability to love fully, trust deeply, and receive the good things life wants to give you. The process of forgiveness doesn't happen overnight, and it shouldn't be rushed. You have every right to feel angry, hurt, disappointed, or betrayed by your mother's failures. These feelings are valid and important. They show you where you were wounded and what you needed that you didn't receive. Honoring these emotions is the first step toward healing them. But forgiveness asks you to move beyond the story of what happened to you and step into the story of who you're becoming because of what happened. Every challenge your mother presented became an opportunity for you to develop qualities you might never have discovered otherwise. Her inability to love you perfectly taught you to love yourself. Her emotional unavailability taught you to become emotionally self-sufficient. Her criticism taught you to trust your own judgment. The most profound forgiveness happens when you realize that your mother's greatest failures were often her greatest gifts to your soul's development. The ways she couldn't show up for you forced you to show up for yourself. The love she couldn't give you taught you how to generate love from within. The security she couldn't provide taught you to create your own foundation of inner strength. Forgiveness also means releasing your mother from the impossible burden of being responsible for your happiness as an adult. Yes, her actions shaped you, but you have the power to reshape yourself. You can heal what was wounded, develop what was neglected, and create what was missing. Taking this responsibility isn't about letting her off the hook. It's about taking back your power to create the life you want. Your mother was never your enemy disguised as love, nor your savior disguised as pain. She was simply your soul's chosen professor in the most advanced course you could take, learning to love an imperfect human being completely, starting with the one you see in the mirror.